Welcome, travelers, to another installment of Grugthegrung Stories and War, where we offer eternal repose to the weary and glory to the dead. I am Grugthegrung, and this wretched land of terror is the Pond. Happy Halloween, everyone! I am glad to present to you our very first holiday special. And what better way to celebrate the very first Halloween special than with glory stories in disguise? These stories were originally posted in the RPG Horror Story subreddit, but then were rightfully relocated to RPG Glory Stories. Well, I believe not the first one, but I still believe it belongs there. Anyway, these tales contain elements that one could consider horror-like, but they resolve in a way that embodies the spirit of TTRPGs. You'll see what I'm talking about. Now call forth the paladins, keep your clerics close, and without further ado, roll pose. I'm female 25 in Florida, and the hurricane has kept us indoors for the past 3 days. My younger sister, 10, asked me to play D&D with her. She's never played, but I've told her some things about it. I called my brother, 20, and we waited for my dad, 48, to get home from work. He grumbled a bit about being forced to play, but didn't argue. He'd do just about anything for my sister. I walked my sister and brother through character creation in D&D Beyond, but mostly left my dad unsupervised. I made some basic statements like how to roll for stats and such. We were starting with level 1 characters to keep it simple for them and me. I added my brother and sister starting equipment and asked my dad if he had finished with his character. He had. I asked to look. He added a 30 modifier to every single stat. He got to the money section and just kept pressing 9 until it wouldn't let him add any more coins. He had 1 billion platinum, 1 billion gold, silver, and copper. I protested this. He simply said, if it was against the rules, the website shouldn't have let me do it. You're level 1, you don't have 1 billion of any coin, let alone all of them. I am a dwarf. Dwarves mine gold and gems. I am independently wealthy because I'm a dwarf. I then looked at his inventory. He had given himself 7 magic items, including a staff of thunder and lightning, gauntlets of ogre strength, and a ring of jumping. Dwarves can jump so good. I fixed that problem. He also gave himself an ancient white dragon as a mount. Dad, you can't have an ancient white dragon at level 1. Yes, I can. My ancestor saved its life and now it's indebted to my family. So even though I'm level 1, it serves me. That is not how white dragons work. The website let me do it, so it's not against the rules. I was gonna redo his character sheet, but my brother was laughing so hard and my sister thought him owning a dragon was cool. We were in the middle of a hurricane and bored out of our minds. I let him keep his broken dwarf barbarian and his mithril scaled armor. If you're wondering how the game went, my brother didn't like it too much because it didn't have any combat. It was supposed to be a low combat RP heavy homebrew campaign. Not really my brother's preference for D&D, which is fine. It was a bit hard to establish any consequences with my dad's dwarf being that OP, but this was a game for the lulz. The second I realized this and adjusted to it, we all had more fun. TLDR, I didn't watch my father make his character sheet and he gave himself an ancient white dragon. See, this is what I was talking about. The element of horror here is that there is a problem player with a mega Mary Sue trying to annoy the DM. However, this was all in lighthearted fun, and what party doesn't find joy in this? Like OP said, it was a session for the lulz and to pass the time, while Talos ended his fit of rage. Now that I mentioned that, hurricanes are no joke, so I hope OP and their family are doing okay. Now, not all great stories have to involve slaying a dragon in a single round, or some other big triumphant epic scene in the RPG realms, which we all love, of course. But there's also glory in the slice of life moments that we share with our loved ones here on Earth. Moving on to our next story, we have a player that utterly destroys their DM's combat encounter with their overpowered ability, Ropost. For some context, we were a group of brand new D&D players, and because we wanted to play a bunch of weird races, we played 3.5e, with a lot of homebrew approved by our DM. We'd been playing a campaign that heavily revolved around dungeon crawling and searching for magical items. and around level 5 or 6, our DM decided that it was time for something a little different than our casual fare. He had our traveling party come across a village whose sheep were being stolen by kobolds and taken to a long dormant volcano, which may or may not have held some manner of ancient treasure or a temple of Hades. The villagers weren't quite sure. We were more than happy to investigate, since treasure hunting was the entire reason for our quest, and we were all too curious for our own good. So off to the dormant volcano we went. Inside, we found an overgrown forest that contained a rundown stone castle, complete with a pen full of all the sheep taken from the villagers. And we couldn't just leave the kobold alive because, well, they just keep stealing the sheep from the villagers and we'd be back to square one. Upon entering the main corridor of the castle, we had combat with 5 or so kobolds, and we heard more within a room off to the side of the hallway. Rather than open the door and rush in, I got the brilliant idea to hypnotize the kobolds inside after cramming a wedge under the door to lock it. See, I had decided to play a sphinx, my favorite mythological creature, and one of the racial abilities this species had was hypnosis, basically charm person / creature, but a droning incantation that affected 2d4 hit dice of creatures that could see or hear me, based on a will save. Basically, this made whatever I successfully hypnotized see me as a neutral party, and neutral parties saw me as a friend. We went through room by room as I hypnotized every kobold through doors we wedged shut from the outside. And through this, we discovered that the kobolds were stealing sheep to offer up as tribute to a young red dragon that had taken roost on the castle's roof, and they saw it as a god. Naturally, we had to fight the young dragon to keep the village safe, so up to the roof we went. Just about entirely stacked up with ammo and spell slots because I had talked us out of every combat encounter the DM had planned. I'm taking rooms full of kobolds, neutralized them, and trapped them inside. There were at least 30 kobolds on floor 1 alone. Needless to say, we won the fight against the dragon, after I tried and failed to talk us out of combat. And it was then that my DM looked at me and said, "You know, I had planned this entire encounter to really make you guys keep track of your ammo and spell slots. So you would have to choose combat strategies wisely. I'm kind of impressed by how you managed to avoid just about everything." After the entire table burst out laughing, and me apologizing profusely between tears of laughter and guilt, we finished up the session by convincing the kobolds to work for us in our new keep. It was a well-rolled intimidation check on my part, something along the lines of, "We just killed your god. You can either serve us or die next." And wouldn't you know it, the kobolds thought that working for a wage sounded pretty swell. To this day, we still laugh about this session, and I still apologize to DM for ruining his encounter. But he laughs it off like a good sport and says, "I love seeing the ways you guys mess up my plans." Edit. This is a cross post to the correct hub. Damn right it is! I'm aware that this ability is super broken. This was a campaign based on fun shenanigans and hunting magical items of the week with a close group of friends. So none of us were particularly concerned with well-balanced homebrew. However, this was the first and last time I used this ability so extensively. And this is why we don't use some races as PCs. The horror element here is both the fact that OP had an OP ability that could be used and abused to destroy their DM's encounter. But once again, everyone involved was aware of how broken the PC's ability was, and were well aware that the tone of the campaign was meant to be lighthearted and silly. If everyone at the table is having fun, then it is not horror, but glory. Props to DM for taking the L like a champ and having a very positive outlook on his role as a DM. I think we can all learn from them to simply laugh it off if things don't go according to plan. Because 9 times out of 10, if you're GMing, your players will screw up your plans, and that is perfectly fine when we're all having fun. Funny thing, in one of the campaigns I've played in, our party also offered proper jobs to kobolds so we wouldn't have to kill them. Is this a common thing to do? I don't know, you guys tell me. Drop a comment and tell us your kobold story. Moving on to our last story, a DM plans the hell out of a session and gives their players exactly what they asked for. Row post! It has been months since we played. I am running Greek-inspired fantasy setting, where the players were demigods. I am using a superhero RPG rule set called Prowlers and Paragons. The game uses a simple mechanic with 6-sided dice. Evens equal 1 success, 6s count as 2. This is important for the story. The characters and their powers do not matter. I was excited for this game. This was the first time in months everyone could show up to the same game. I wanted to make it special, so before the game, I foolishly asked the group the following questions to generate enthusiasm for the game. Audiences are walking out of your movie. What's the one scene they're all talking about? How can I create it in upcoming sessions? What do you want to see? Email me. I like to think of my games as action movies. There's a plot, but it is mostly there to provide a connecting thread to the action scenes I plan out. I create opportunities for the players to highlight their abilities and stand out. I enjoy memorable scenes involving creative use of abilities and powers. However, two jokers in the group tap their inner Danny McBride and respond with big ass titties. I ignored it and I figured they were expressing their inner teenager. Mind you, my group ranges in age between 30 and 53. For the next week, no one gives me a legitimate good scene for the game, and they continue the relentless barrage via text. So, I finally respond, Zim Zim Zalabim, your wishes have been locked in. Next, the players start the game in a village at the center of a rich wheat-producing valley, the breadbasket of the realm. The villagers reveal that their crops are dying and the cattle has begun to disappear. There are rumors of beasts fouling the land. As they further investigate, they arrive at a farm reeking of death and putrid gas. The gods have unleashed cattle blapers and they are killing everything with their noxious cloud. The heroes defeat the first wave and follow the trail to a large barn emitting a deep, guttural moan from inside. The roof bursts, the walls explode, and the heroes come face to face with the cursed creature corrupting the cattle of the land. As it stands, a cow hangs from each breast, feeding on its corrupting milk. A player yells, "Big ass titties!" and the game devolves from there. The heroes continue investigating the source of this foul beast and find an evil demigod hiding in a forest that serves as a nexus between realms. She intends to corrupt all life. But first, they must battle Arachne, the multi-breasted spider queen, and from each of her breasts feeds the earlier creature they encountered. It was not my finest moment, but I did create a number of scenes involving nauseous, corrupting milk, and one attempt to grab a hero and force him to feed on the foul nectar of a god. Ingeniously, he spends a point of resolve, think a penny to alter a scene, and, as he puts it, nopes himself out of the attempt. In the end, the heroes continue talking about the game and make big ass titties their battle cry. Oh, and one of the players printed out dice to commemorate the game, where 2 equals 1 and 3 equals 2. I hate them, but I now have a new memorable gaming story around the table. Ah yes, Tig-ass biddies. OP encountered a dire situation in which their players failed to provide adequate feedback to them, and yet they still managed to create a memorable session employing exactly what their players had asked for. Some DMs might have thought of just including an NPC with huge honkers, but not OP. No siree. Their players instead got full-on mommy milker monstrosities. Simply genius. I applaud you, OP. DMs around the globe, take notes. This is how you twist silly ideas into usable content for your campaigns. Also, while I can't show you the images from the story, I will link the post back in the comments as per always, so you guys can check it out. Unless I can finally put links in the description, then I'll place them there. Unfortunately, that's it for today, folks. Thank you for stopping by the pond, and I hope your rest dice have treated you horribly. If you have enjoyed yourself here today, feel free to drop a like and follow the channel for more stories to come. Good luck out there, adventurers, and remember to trick or treat safely. Till our paths cross again.